Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Chuck and I are doing a series of conversations. And let me introduce Chuck. It's Dr. Chuck Coker. Chuck is an author. He's been doing leadership and organizational development for a lot of years, as I have. And I'm very excited, Chuck, about your new book. So people can see, it's called Are You Coachable? The Science of a Growth Mindset. Uh, when did this get released, Chuck?
It was released late last year.
Okay. Okay. What was the driving force behind you writing this book?
Well, one of the things that I am constantly asked is, what does it take to get to the next level? What does it take to move into a role of leadership successfully? And the number one thing that continued to crop up, uh, especially as I partnered with some people at DePaul University, because they have done a lot of research in this area, was the fact that a person has to be teachable.
Mm.
And as you and I both know, emotional intelligence is what people are measuring now, much more so than technical abilities, because technical abilities can be learned. Emotional intelligence and teachability is harder.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I'm seeing the same thing with a lot of people I'm talking to is people come to them, whether they're hiring somebody or developing somebody internally, um, they come with pretty good technical skills or they wouldn't be there in the first place. But where the real rub comes in is where we talk about what people call soft skills.
Mhm.
Uh, and at the same time, a completely separate issue is this growth mindset.
Mhm.
And I'm very interested in the second part of the title here, the science of a growth mindset.
Mhm.
Just share with me for a minute, what do you mean by the science of a growth mindset?
Well, Carol Dweck wrote a great book about it several years ago. But what I have discovered is that growth mindset has actually three components to it. It has the intrapersonal aspect. Does the person have the expressed humility and motivation to actually do something? Second of all, is the interpersonal aspects of people interacting with others so they can grow. And that requires, am I going to seek feedback? And am I actually receptive to that feedback? But what most people forget about is the application process, because the application process um, literally requires that you have a response motive that is in tune with taking the information and moving it into place. And then, am I actually going to use this feedback and put it into action to get me to that next level? So, Steve, it's multifaceted, it's multidimensional. You have to have the intrapersonal aspects, the interpersonal aspects, and then you got to do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. This has triggered something for me. I'm doing a lot of work with organizations right now in bringing in new talent.
Mhm.
And it's becoming much more difficult with artificial intelligence and everything out there today. It's very easy to take somebody's job posting and take that over to artificial intelligence of some form and say, create a resume for me with my background
Mhm.
that best fits this job posting. And so resumes, number one, are looking really, really good. And number two, they're all looking very similar. And so it's very difficult for people as they're hiring and bringing on new talent to start to sift through that. It's much more difficult than it used to be because when we used to do this 20 years ago, we'd look at different resumes and writing styles, and maybe somebody back then might go hire somebody to write their resume. And Okay, I get that. But the reality today is we've got to do such a better job of qualifying candidates on the front end. Well, what you've triggered for me is I know from my 35 plus years of doing hiring for organizations that if you hire somebody that does not have a growth mindset, you've got a huge problem to start with. But if you hire people that have a growth mindset and are coachable, then you can train them, you can teach them, they can grow, they can mature in the role, and we can get a sense of how far up the organization can they go. How do you measure if somebody's coachable?
Well, as I mentioned, those six dimensions that we talked about will help measure an individual's teachability, coachability, etc. But here's the one thing you brought up a very important point, Steve, and that is resumes. The most current statistics out of multiple universities, and I'm not talking about just one, but Harvard is one of them, University of Chicago, et cetera, have identified, and this is directly from the people that submit the resumes, that 58% of the information on a resume is either an exaggeration, a fabrication, or an outright lie.
Wow.
So, what is an employer actually getting? He won't know until he puts an employee through the coachability assessment, because that is going to tell us not only do they have the skill sets that are necessary, but do they have the expressed humility to actually learn and grow based on the corporate culture that they're placed in.
Okay, you've got an assessment that's a companion to the book.
Yes, and it's free.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. I I love that because, and you know me, I'm an assessment guy. I use all kinds of different assessments with people. What really excites me about that is I don't know that I have seen anything else that will give me a direct measure of coachability. I can use three or four different assessments to get a sense of someone's coachability, but you're talking about one assessment that actually lays it out for you and gives you a sense of how coachable and teachable is this person.
Yes, absolutely. If
Hmm.
people in the audience here will purchase that little book for the little bit of cost. I think it's 14.95 for the softback, 17.95. They get the assessment free. It's a shortened version. It's a three-page version, but the full 12, 13-page version is on the website for them to purchase. But they can get the same information by simply using the code that's in this book.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, how do you see if I didn't know you and I went out and bought this book as a leader, let's say I'm a leader in an organization, what does this do for me? What am I going to get out of this? What value comes out of this book for me?
Well, I think the most important thing is not only does it tell you through the assessment where you are at this point, it literally guides you step by step through the process of how to increase the growth mindset that will get you to that next level. And I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people and seen them just literally take off simply because of the fact that they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah. I'm looking through the table of contents and I see so many things in here that I know I use in coaching. Self-awareness, right out of emotional intelligence and the coaching I do there. Uh, Humility. Talk to me for a minute about why is humility important?
Well, it's not just humility, Steve. According to DePaul University's study, it's expressed humility. A person can be humble inside and realize that they need to grow or they have the capacity. But expressed humility is the ability of a person to actually tell other people, I need to learn. I have the capacity to grow. I want to grow, and I have a willingness to listen.
Okay. And as I look through just the table of contents, the fear of feedback, how to overcome that, seeking out the right coach or mentor, embracing this growth mindset, the power of positivity and resilience. And I know in my work with emotional intelligence, resilience is a very big deal.
Critical.
And
Absolutely.
and I'm thinking about our world today. Rapid change, technology advancing at a rate that we've never seen before. And just there's so much going on that this ability to be resilient, to create a culture of feedback, constructive feedback, and overcoming fears, overcoming these emotions that basically are roadblocks to people. What I love is you've incorporated all of this in the book as it relates to that growth mindset. So I think what I see here is you're helping people understand what this is all about, but also how to remove the roadblocks, how to open up the superhighway for that growth mindset.
Exactly. If a person doesn't know where they are, they're automatically lost.
Hmm.
So we give them the information of where they are through the free assessment that they can get with the book coupon. And then we tell them step by step how to improve the areas where they do have weaknesses or less capacity at this particular time. There are questions that if they will simply answer them at the end of each chapter, it will help them take that next step. And I've also given at least 5 other book references that will help them improve that specific skill in their lives.
I love that. And I know you well, Chuck, and I know that you don't leave people with just theory, that you
Mm-mm.
give
No.
them practical applications to put things in place to help them move forward. I mean, that's what you're all about. So, well, I would just want to say thank you because as a professional coach and consultant to organizations and organizational development and leadership development, this is probably one of the most impactful books that I've seen in a long time because the answer to that question, are you coachable? Whether it's for yourself or whether it's for somebody else, I think that's a critical question that has to be answered. Whether you're
It does.
hiring people, developing people, maybe you're just developing yourself. And you know my definition of a leader. It's all of us because we
Mhm.
have to lead ourselves first.
That's right.
So, I love that you've come out with this. Any last thoughts for people as far as this book and how they can really make the most of it?
Yes. One quick thought. 70% of human resource money is spent on recruiting. You can recruit the best person in the world, but you put them in a culture that doesn't match, you're wasting your time and they're gone.
Mm.
So you mentioned the hiring and the development process. Let me emphasize what I honestly believe is the most critical factor for any employer to consider, and that is retention.
Ah,
If you hire with the concept of retention, you will be able to not just understand if they can do the job and if they will do the job, but you can create a culture of chemistry and build their capacity so that their competence and their character continues to grow and develop. So as we think about that, thank you for your time today, Steve. I'm excited about the opportunity of sharing this with our audience, and we would love for you to send us any questions or so that we can help you. And no question is too small.
yeah, I love that. And Chuck, thank you. And that invitation, please hear our hearts in this. We
Yes.
are here to help people. We feel we are called to bring a certain type of knowledge and coaching and teaching and equipping to everybody. So please, if you have ideas of things you'd like us to talk about, we'd be happy to do that. We'll be doing these on a consistent basis. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll talk again soon.